This is Jolt Your Career with Tegan Bertos, the podcast for executives who aren't just looking for a job, they're crafting what's next. You won't find old school advice that doesn't work here, just bold conversations with leaders who have made game-changing moves and straight talk from people who have sat on every side of the hiring table. Whether you're confidentially exploring your next move or finding the job search harder than expected, this podcast is your unfair advantage. Buckle up, because today's episode is not your standard career success story. My guest didn't just climb the corporate ladder. He built the damn ladder after burning the first one down. At, I think, 18 years old, Yitz walked away from everything he knew, a high-controlled religious cult, no real-world education, no safety net, and his first job, a factory floor surrounded by people stuck in a cycle of poverty and burnout. But instead of letting that be his fate, he made the decision. This will not be my life. Fast forward to today, Yitz is one of the top producing real estate agents in Texas, running million-dollar deals and proving that your past doesn't dictate your future. This conversation is raw, real, and full of moments that will make you rethink the stories you're telling yourself about what's possible. Let's get into it. Welcome, Yitz. Everyone is probably wondering what it was like to grow up in a cult, but since Netflix has that part covered, let's start with your name. What is your full name and how did you get it?
I appreciate the introduction. I wish I could take you everywhere to have you introduce me. That was a very pleasant introduction. Yitzchak Stanislaus Pierson. Yitzchak is Hebrew for Isaac, and it means laughter. Stanislaus is Polish, and it means to achieve great glory or fame. And then Pierson is of Greek origin, and it means a rock or solid foundation. I am none of the above. I'm actually half Mexican. My mom and dad grew up in the San Antonio, Texas area. They met and got married in 5 days and then went and traveled the country. And they were staying in Oregon, and they were staying with a guy named Stanislaus Petrowski, and he was studying Hebrew. And that's how they found my name, Yitzchak. And so that's the origins of my name.
And spoiler alert, your name really benefits you in business because you attract so many different types of people off the strength of your name alone. But hardly anyone ever guesses that you're part Mexican.
No. I get compared to Canelo Alvarez quite a bit. He's a Hispanic boxer, but he's redheaded, and so that's one of the only celebrity comparisons I get. Outside of that, Yitzchak, it's a solid name. There's nobody else in my market that has that name. And when I first got in the business and just over life in general, I always felt the need or wanted to be normal or conform. And so I had nicknames over the years. When I first got into real estate, I went by a shortened nickname that didn't have anything to do with my name, just trying to make it easy on other people and fit in. Since I wrote a book and took more ownership of my identity, I realized that my uniqueness is part of my superpower. And so really putting my name out there, I'll go by Yitz if it's easier for people, because then I can get them to say Ak eventually, Yitzchak. But it has helped me in my business just from conversation starters. When you walk up at a networking meeting or introduce yourself, I always have to go into a conversation. And so it immediately starts conversation. And then I've been fortunate, some of my clients, my biggest group of clients there is Realty, and they knew my name immediately off of my YouTube channel. And so that was instant rapport builder with them.
So I just want to make a quick correction. You are a best-selling author. Let's not forget that piece.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right. So let's rewind a bit. You grew up unconventionally, and you had a massive shift. And I love that you're always wearing the 1% Better Everyday shirts. And that's a philosophy we'll get into it in a little bit. But back in the day, what was the most dangerous belief that you had to let go of to create the life you have now?
I had a lot of self-limiting beliefs around my education or lack thereof education. Growing up, I was kept out of the school system. We were homeschooled, but it was even unconventional homeschooling. We ran businesses. We had a furniture and pottery and wrought iron import business, a construction company, farm and ranch. And so I did mostly manual labor jobs. I quit school when I was 13 and I was in the 7th grade. So I had a 7th grade education and I let that hold me back for a long time. I just didn't think that I had the traditional book smarts, or college was never an option. It wasn't something that I was ever given the opportunity to even think about. So that held me back, thinking that I could only do manual labor jobs. And so I really had to overcome that belief in order to get to the point of where I am now, and understanding that, especially in this day and age, the traditional route of going to college is great for some people, but it doesn't work for everybody. And it just didn't work for me. But we live in an a la carte world. You can go learn anything you want to, take a course, listen to a podcast, watch a YouTube video. And so that's the approach that I took. And with real estate, it made sense to me. I went and paid to get my real estate license, and then I could go immediately into earning an income based off of that education. So that was one of the biggest beliefs that held me back.
I can imagine that quite a few people believe that. I work with many people that don't have a college degree, but went down the path of corporate careers. And certain institutions are just hell-bent. Okay, you have to have that degree to move into a leadership role. Or maybe you've been in a senior leadership role, but if you truly want to break into the C-suite, then you've got to have that MBA or whatever that is. And that's one of the things that I love about real estate. But before we really talk about real estate, I want to talk about when you were in manufacturing. What was the exact moment that you said, I'm done? Paint the scene.
So I think in life, we always want to contribute one moment, this one breakthrough. And a lot of times it doesn't happen that way. It's a slow progression, a slow death. It's like you realize 10 years later, you're in the same job and you're miserable, but then you're too comfortable to make a change. And that's part of what I started seeing. I started there when I was 18. I was making $12 an hour. I got some raises over the years as a single young man. I could party and have fun. I could travel a little bit, lived in a college town where rents were somewhat low, or I could have a roommate. But I saw people with families, and some of them, I was making more money than they were. They were having to work 2 jobs. We worked 40, 50, 60 hours a week, just getting overtime in order to make the bills. And it's just slowly started to dawn on me. I was like, I don't want that life. A lot of negativity. I remember one guy, from the day he started, he just complained about the job, but he was there 7 years by the time I left, and he would just come in negative. And, that type of environment just breeds more negativity, and you lower your standards. When I first started, got employee of the month. I got promotions, I got raises, and then I just started seeing everybody else doing the bare minimum. And it started to affect me to where I was doing the bare minimum in order to make more money. It was like, okay, let's milk the clock. Let's come in 15 minutes early, do nothing for the first 15 minutes, take a little bit longer on each break. And so it was a slow progression of just, I was content for a little while, and then I got to the point where I was no longer content. And so then it was starting to find a path out. I'm very strategic, and I'm also, my risk tolerance has increased over the years. But at that point, I was like, okay, I have a steady job. What can I do different now to get myself out of this situation? So just started going down a rabbit hole, listening to podcasts and kind of Googling what else is out there, what side hustles, where can I invest my money? And I just kept coming back to real estate investing. And so the real estate investing was like my first avenue of seeing something more, seeing a route out of that environment. And so just went down a rabbit hole. That's what I was going to do. So it was I had been there about 8 years. And from there, I started making a plan, paying down debt, and just working to acquire my first property. And then 2020 happened. And I'd say that was probably when things got progressively worse just because COVID, everything going on. But the company, I realized how much of a number you were rather than a human being. It was like they have a spreadsheet, they have a bottom line that they had to hit. It was get the most out of the employee for the least amount of money. And then I made it through 4 layoffs in the 11 years that I worked there. So it was like, okay, at any point I could get laid off. I had some job security, but just wasn't enough for me to take that chance. There was people that had been there 20, 30, 40 years and they still got laid off after dedicating their whole lives to that company, working for somebody else, making the owners a lot of money. And that was something that I just didn't want to take the chance on. So I was like, I'm going to start over while I'm young. I know it's going to be difficult. And so that was the moment was during COVID when I was still planning on staying there and doing real estate investing on the side. And then after that, it was like, okay, I'm going to get my real estate license and actually switch careers, immerse myself in that industry. It'll help me with real estate investing as well as open more opportunities and get me out of that environment of the negative, just the mindset of I'm going to work here for the rest of my life and just put my head down, be a cog in the wheel. And that was what I wanted to get away from.
I am so glad that you are this transparent because a lot of the people tuning in probably feel a lot of shame about how long they stayed or about how content they were with being comfortable with being miserable.
Yeah.
And it's human nature. That's how we're hardwired, is to play it safe and to minimize risk. And it takes decisive action and mindset and energy and resources to really change your circumstances. So thank you for that.
I want to touch on, you can still be an entrepreneur. You can still work at a company and climb your way out of where you're at. You could still leverage that company to make a transition into another company. But what most people don't realize is you have to put in the work before you get there. Most people don't realize they expect to get promoted or they expect to get a raise rather than putting the work in first to show your value in order to go make a lateral move or make a move up and get a promotion. And
so what you just talked about, that culture of the bad apples, they're contagious. When you see somebody else just doing minimum work, that can rub off on you. And we think that we're strong enough for it not to rub off on us. But toxic cultures are more likely to change you than you are to change it, period. So success leaves clues, but so does survival. What's one habit from your old life that almost sabotaged your new one?
The immediate one comes to mind, which is controversial, but it's drinking for me specifically. In that environment, people use drinking as a coping mechanism a lot of times. And so for me, it was the people that I worked with. It was go out and go drinking afterwards. Some even on lunch break, let's go get some drinks. And then growing up in a college town, it was drinking. And so that definitely, sometimes I look back and I was like, if I had never got into drinking and like partying, I could be a lot further than I am now. But I also wouldn't change it because I wouldn't know the difference. And I'm so much happier at this point in my life without alcohol. And it's a big societal thing. We're programmed from little kids to, that's adult juice and you're made to like want it. You want to try it whether you really wanted to try it or not, just because of the people you're around. And so for me, that was one of the things that probably held me back a lot. And when people ask why I don't drink now, I was like, all it ever did was cost me money and cause me trouble. And for some people, it works. Some people can moderate. I'm more of an abstainer. And so now in my current career, like it gives me an advantage being not drinking, not going out, not being hungover, and feeding into exercise too. I'm way more energetic because I exercise, because alcohol is not a part of my life. So I know that's a controversial one, but that's the answer for me.
No, I hear you. When I left working on Department of Labor grants and started recruiting, that was what everybody did. After work, you would go and get drinks with everybody waiting for the metro. After, on Fridays, team building events, you would go out drinking. And it's really easy then to have it cause problems in your life. And it's, from a societal standpoint, I feel like sobriety is getting more and more common, especially with the current generation. Like, they just opened up a sober bar lounge in my town, and I live in a little podunk town, and it's always popping. Like, they've got fun games and they have craft cocktails, but they're all virgin. And it's something that I read an article recently. One of my girlfriends, Anna Morgan, she just recently did a talk. She's a recruiter. She just recently did an HR Disrupt talk about her alcoholism and what it took to get sober and the impact that it had on her life and career. And I think enough of us don't talk about it. I was talking with a girlfriend just last weekend, and she comes from a sales background. And in sales, there's a lot of cocaine that's used to be able to be at the trade shows for those long hours and whatnot. And it can really destroy people's lives. And it starts off as innocent, and then it goes into a whole nother path. And I'm sure, looking at the statistics, people who are listening in are going to be like, yeah, I dealt with that. I had to move on for it, or I'm in it now. And thank you for giving them the courage to move past it.
Yeah. That is one of the reasons I share so openly about it, is because it's not as foreign as you think. It's a lot more common than you think. And it's something that's hidden, or with certain crowds, it's very open. And you're just in the town I was in and the crowd that I was in, it was glamorized. It's a very social thing. But I do feel like it holds you back from achieving a lot of the goals and dreams that you have in life. Because again, like with the job where I talked, it's a slow thing. It slowly creeps in, and before you realize it, it's a habit. And then it's really hard to break a bad habit.
Absolutely. But now you walk into the room as a top agent and new broker. So do you feel like the kid who didn't belong, or how do you deal with that voice? Does it ever pop back up into your head?
All the time. Yeah. I've always felt like an outsider, just because for so long that I was an outsider. The way that I grew up, didn't really have friends or a crowd that I was in. And so then in my early 20s, a lot of getting into drinking and partying was to fit in and to make friends. And that was a social lubricant. It was something that helped me I don't miss drinking. The only parts of it that I miss is the camaraderie. You get a lot closer, buddy with people a lot quicker. And that's why it's in sales a lot of times, and in business, because it makes bonds quicker. But those bonds aren't necessarily like long-term or substantial. There's a lot of trauma bonding that happens. There's a lot of fake friendships. There's a lot of drinking buddies, people that you party with. And when that goes away, they're not there anymore. And I have had different phases of my life where I've transitioned, and now it's about building more long-term, genuine relationships and friendships. And I still feel unique and an outsider, but in a different way, because I'm such a high performer, and because most of my conversations focus around business and personal growth and getting to the next level and exercise and health and fitness. And that's out of the normal of what most people are interested in. It's not talking about the Netflix show or that reality show. It's not talking about what the gossip or the drama with people. I try and stay out of all of that. So on the flip side, I've realized that my uniqueness makes me like, it's one of my superpowers. So not fitting in, I've become more okay with it. I've realized that's part of being a high performer, part of having big goals and dreams and wanting to have a global impact. Not everybody is going to relate to that, and they're not all going to be able to have a conversation with you. There's a Bible verse that always sticks out to me. It says, do not feed your pearls to swine. And I have to remember that sometimes of, okay, me talking to this person about this thing, I can just keep that to myself. I have to be selective about who I share my big ideas with, because I want people around me who have big ideas as well. and we help each other get to the next level. We see each other's blind spots. So that's what I look for now in friendships, relationships, business, and it still feels like an outsider. But having that imposter syndrome, having the belief in something more and something bigger is just part of the life that I've chosen. And I'm really okay with that now.
I had to go to a lot of therapy to be okay with that. And it's still a daily struggle of mine because it's heartbreaking when you genuinely want the best for people and you're ambitious and you have big, bold ideas and you like to talk about them and you like civil discourse and you like to encourage people to be the best versions of themselves. But sometimes people just want to be content and set. And so when people like me and you hear someone saying, oh gosh, I really don't like my job. And we're like, okay, what do you like doing? What is the plan? Let's talk about this. Let me be your biggest cheerleader. And some people are, no, I just wanted to bitch about it. I don't actually want to do anything about it. And it can be really difficult to understand, or at least it was for me, like, why do I repel so many people when I am just showing up as me? And yeah, I feel you on that. And I think a lot of outliers, a lot of ambitious people find themselves in that scenario. And we have to do extra to invest in surrounding ourselves with like-minded people. And I struggle with the idea of surrounding myself with like-minded people because it's a way to avoid diversity of thought. But also, we need our people. And like how we met at one of Jamar's Lead the Movement events, and you were the first person I saw, and I clung to you being an introvert. And then you were like, I'm an introvert too. And I was like, yes, we can do this shit together. And then it just made the whole entire event so much easier. And by the time I went up and did my presentation, I just felt so much more comfortable knowing that there was just one more person in the room that understood and was like me. And that's all it took to be like, okay, I can do this. And so are there any events, any groups, any things in particular that you're really drawn to where you find people who are like you?
Yes. I wanted to recommend a book if you haven't read it. I just started listening to it. It's called Quiet, and it's about like the introverts and the power of being introverted, and just started reading that. I think it'd be a good one. I'm excited to get through it. But in general, yes, coaching, personal growth and development, real estate, conferences, anything that's like challenging you to get outside of what you believe is possible, to go learn something new. So I have 3 coaching certifications. I'm a certified professional life coach, certified success coach, neuro-linguistic programming, DISC personality assessment, and then certified high performance coach through Brendon Burchard. And just like, those are my people. Like I love going through the trainings. It helps me be a better person and professional in my industry. I think outside of just coaching, going to different events with different people from different industries who are entrepreneurs who are wanting to better themselves, you get different perspectives. It's that variety that we need. And it has helped me to feel included, to feel like I found my people. And it's been like super exciting. So I will continually do that multiple times a year. I find a conference. I'm currently looking into, because of having a hard time finding friends, like in my city, just my day-to-day life, they're not on the same level of what I'm wanting to do. There's a group called GoBundance that somebody was telling me about, where it's specifically people getting together to challenge each other, talk about finances. I'm very open about talking about my income and finances because I want people who don't see that as like boasting. Or in manufacturing, everybody was kept so silent about their incomes. You didn't want anybody to know what you made. And I was like, no, I want people to know what I made and they could help me get to another level. Or like I could tell them, hey, I did this thing and I was able to make this money. And if you implement that into your business, you can take your business to the next level. So those are the types of conversations. And like coaching, went to Brendon Burchard coaching, and he like taught us how to sell and create a sales funnel and what we should be charging for our coaching. And that's what I really liked about it. Conversations about money and abundance and growth, like that's really what gets me fired up. And those are like the people and the conversations that I want to be having. I don't just want surface level. I want to go deep on specific subjects that will help me and help those around me. And then in a ripple effect, it creates like a global impact, a community impact. And that's what I really love.
I think that's why so many agents are attracted to you and why they leave their current brokerages and join the company that you work with, because people in real estate have to have a certain level of discipline, not only discipline to make good money in real estate, but discipline to also have a life outside of real estate. And so if you could sit down with anyone who's thinking about going into real estate, what's one thing or a couple of things, whatever, that you would recommend could change their trajectory if they implemented it sooner?
Education. Most realtors do the bare minimum of education. They get licensed and then they just think that I'm going to go out and sell and I'm going to start making money, but they don't realize how much further they can take their business and shorten the learning curve by going and taking education. That's such an affordable cost. Like here in Texas, it's for an 8-hour course, it's like $120. Like for a 30-hour course, it's $240 or something. And you're learning actual tactical skills to go out for to attract a specific buyer or to learn how to sell a house better. And we just have people that it's the survival method of, I just need to go out and make money and buy, but it's a scattered approach where rather than it's like targeted, I'm going to go learn this thing, I'm going to go learn how to market. And it's treating it like a business. A lot of agents will still treat it like a job or, okay, Monday through Friday from 8 to 5, I'm going to do this. And no, it's like you're on all of the time. Now you can get good at putting stuff into your calendar and actually create a schedule, but you have to be flexible. You have to be consistent. You have to be dedicated. And that education piece is what a lot of them miss. People look at me now with the current level of business that I have, and they ask me, oh, how'd you do this? And I was like, I invested in myself. And in any business outside of real estate, especially when you're young, the best investment you can make is in yourself. So the first 2, 3, even I've been 4.5 years licensed. The first 2 years, everything I made, I reinvested back into myself through education, coaching, conferences, challenging what I believed was possible, raising the ceiling, going and seeing high producers and realizing, okay, like when I got into business, my goal was just to make more than I made in my previous career. So it was like, I want to make $60,000 a year. And I realized very soon that goal was too small. And so I've kept raising the ceiling by being around other people who are high performers doing more than I thought possible. And then I have done more than I ever thought possible by being around those people and seeing that in my life.
So my mom left sales and got into real estate during the pandemic as well. And there's a lot of cookie cutter advice out there for real estate agents. What's one rule everybody in real estate swears by that you've completely broken and it's worked out for you?
Cold calling and door knocking. I've never done either one of those, but it was something that everybody said when you get into business. So you got to do cold calling, or you got to do door knocking, or you got to, it's a lot of the transactional approach. And I just didn't feel good about that. I was like, I didn't get into this business to take that approach. I've never been one to do a shotgun blast approach, or internet leads are like 1 to 3% conversion, 5% conversion rate if you're really good. So it's like you have to talk to 100 people to maybe get one deal. And that just didn't make sense to me. I was like, no, I don't want to do that. And so I took a very relationship-based approach of going out in my community, belly to belly, getting on social media, started to create short form social media, and then went to long form and building a digital resume. It was like all of these things that are free. It's free to go out there and put yourself out. The first thing I did was went to a local networking mixer and met a lender. I had a conversation with him, had a one-to-one with him, built a relationship, and he gave me my first opportunity with a pre-qualified first-time home buyer. The first listing I got, I went to a group cycling class at my gym and overheard the instructor say that she was moving to California. And so I just struck up a conversation. I was like, hey, I heard you were moving. And she was like, yeah. I'm like, oh, I'm a realtor. And she's, oh, do you want to sell my house? Yes. And
I guess I would love to sell your house.
And so life doesn't have to be hard. You just have to challenge yourself and put yourself out there. You get to choose your hard. And the more you do these things that increase your capacity, like I was very introverted. It was a challenge for me to put myself out there. But when I did, I started seeing results. And then I just kept on putting myself out there, doing things that scared me. Now I've almost retrained my brain to, if something seems scary or like I'm like hesitant, it's okay, I should probably do that thing. And I've gotten really good results from doing that.
Yeah, it can tell because the old you is surviving and the new you is thriving. And I know you're working on getting 1% better every day, but I am curious because our old self doesn't just go away. What is the bridge between the two versions of you? And I know I didn't say I was going to ask you that question, but I'm curious because you've said a couple of things, like your biggest fear was education and the best tip is to get more education. And so there's something going on between old you and new you.
It's a lot of self-work, a lot of vulnerability, writing my book and sharing my story about growing up the way that I grew up in a religious cult, and sharing my story about having trouble with drugs and alcohol and being arrested multiple times. Sharing those things out loud helped me bridge the gap between the different identities that I had. There was a lot of shame and guilt around those past lives. And by sharing it, I've been able to merge the different version of myself into one to where I'm confident. And there's a reason. I heard a quote recently, and it was from Stephen Colbert. I don't know very much, but the quote was, I've learned to love the things that I wish had not happened most. It was like the things that I've gone through that I wished had not happened. I've learned to love those things because they've made me who I am. And without those things and without me being able to share, I wouldn't be able to inspire as many people as I've been able to. I wouldn't be able to have as much compassion for others. I wouldn't be able to have the same understanding that I have now. And I wouldn't have the same motivation that I have now without all of those things that happen to me. And I like to say they happen for me. And I guess that's the best answer.
I love that because so many people feel ashamed of who they were instead of just allowing it to be what got them to where they're at now. And so how does someone get in touch with you? How does someone break into real estate, to working with you, to being mentored by you? How does that work?
So my brokerage is eXp Realty. I'm a broker associate. And one of the things that I love about my brokerage is that I get to help other agents be successful for it. And I get rewarded for helping them be successful. And we're a worldwide brokerage. We have close to 90,000 agents worldwide. I am in Texas, but I can partner with any agent in the world, in the US or anywhere else. And part of what I've done is build my value proposition. I have a really great team to be able to partner with agents to help them take their business to the next level. A lot of agents, especially if they're at a boutique brokerage, if they're a top producing agent, they're capped out. Like I said, I went to these conferences. I got to see agents doing way more than I ever thought possible. I want to be able to do that for other agents, help them take their businesses to the next level. So you can reach out to me to talk to me about partnering with you to help you in your business and your life, just have a higher quality of life. We will want a holistic approach, not focused on doing deals every day. We want you to be able to spend time with your family, take care of your health, just build a high quality life. And so that's what's really important to me. If that is something that you want in your life as an agent, then my phone number is 512-749-6532. You can find me on all social media. My website is yitzchakpierson.com. we can put all that information in the show notes.
Absolutely. It will be there. And Yitzchak didn't just leave a cult. He left every excuse behind. He started with nothing the world values on paper, but everything that matters when you're building something real. Grit, vision, and the refusal to settle for survival. If you've been feeling stuck, burnt out, or like the path you're on was never really yours, this is your proof that you can rewrite the whole damn story. And if you're ready to bet on yourself in the industry where hustle wins and playing the field is wide open, Yit says real estate is where anyone can make it if they're willing to outwork yesterday's version of themselves. Reach out to him, get curious, and see if it's your next move. Then share this episode with a person in your network who needs to know it's not too late for them either. Because good people know good people, and this conversation might just be the thing that jolts someone's life in an entirely new direction. Thanks for listening to Jolt Your Career with Tegan Bartos. If this sparked something or called BS on what's holding you back, share it, subscribe, and connect with me at Jolt Your Career. More real stories, smarter strategies, and zero fluff coming your way, because executive careers don't run on autopilot.